Okay, so I will be recording this call. I know that John, you and I talked about how the session is going to go. So I'm just going to first welcome everyone and also our guest, John VanderGheynst. And I always like to talk about how I know you and what the history is. So, this is all about mindset and conversation around fear and the business and growth and the mindset. So, John, you and I met probably 2.5 years ago in Austin. And this was before you were a transformational coach. You were in MAPS, and I'll be honest, I forget the exact role. And yet we met, and when I found out you were doing MAPS transformational coaching, which I'm going to have you explain what that means here in a minute, I knew I wanted to get you as my coach, and it's been about 10 months since we started coaching, and I've seen a lot of changes and growth happened around mindset, and there's always much, much more we could be doing to grow ourselves. So I appreciate your time. I know how valuable it is, and I'm excited to have you share and help all these agents grow during this call.
All right. Well, thank you for that kind intro, Lena. And um, the gratitude and the pleasure is absolutely all mine that we get to share some time together today, and um, potentially impact the lives of the folks that are on the call with us, and then all the lives of the clients and the families, and just it can make a big difference with a lot of people when we get to some of the simple things around how to transform a situation. So Lena had asked me if we could talk about some of the major things that get in the way um, of agents really being their best in production, being their best in prospecting and lead generation, showing up in powerful ways to work every day. And one of the things, and this is a perfect transformational topic, as there's going to be, as we're going to talk about on our call this afternoon, there's a lot of ways that we can work in our thinking, and our noticing our thinking and becoming aware of how our thinking creates our feelings. As many of you know from BOLD and from the Point FAR cycle, our programming and our thoughts lead to the way that we feel about a situation. And the way that we feel about a situation actually dictate our actions and our results. So when we're working in a transformational capacity, as we're all going to be doing on our call today, we're actually examining our own thinking, examining our own cycle, and whether that cycle of thinking and feeling is working for us or working against us. An easy way of thinking about it is that, well, it may not be easy. A way of thinking about it is that our experience with reality is created by the lenses through which we interpret events. Each day we observe hundreds of thousands of stimuli that through our unconscious thinking are categorized into patterns. In other words, the world is happening around us, and the lens, or our thoughts, attitudes, and beliefs, effectively shape the way that we experience these events. Sounds like we got somebody with a lot of background noise there. If you guys wouldn't mind, please place yourself on mute, and we're going to ask all of you to participate here in just a few minutes. So there's a great book. I highly recommend it. And there's a book called "In the Three Laws of Performance." And its author, Steve Zaffron, says, how people perform correlates to how the situation occurs for them. So in other words, what he's saying is the way that our belief structure has us see a situation will create the response to the situation. Now, I know that sounds maybe a little esoteric, a little out there, yet let's look at an example. And a couple of you may have heard this example before now, and I'll share it with you anyway. This is a great way of thinking about it. Let's say that you're in your car and you drive up to a red light. And when you drive up to this red light, your reaction is, oh, why me? Why am I always get stuck at this light? Why is it me why am I always unlucky? Oh, unlucky. Sorry. Why is it that every time this light turns red, and over the last 10 lights, I've gotten stuck at all of them, especially when I'm in a hurry? Or maybe we roll up to the red light and we're like, this light is stupid. I am going to call the city planner. I'm going to tell him how it doesn't stay green long enough. Only 2 cars get through before it turns yellow. This light is stupid. I'm going to do something about it. Or maybe we roll up to the light and we say, wow, you know, sometimes you get the green light, sometimes you get the red light. It's just the way the cookie crumbles. Or maybe we roll up to the red light and we say, you know what? I got stopped at the red light, and yet the people at the other side of the intersection, they now have a chance to go. So it's okay that I'm waiting my turn because they've been waiting and it's their turn to go. Or maybe we roll up to the red light and we say, wow, you know, I have an opportunity to check my text messages under the dashboard where the police can't see me. Or maybe we have the opportunity to evaluate my radio station. Or maybe we have the opportunity to take a breath and clear my mind. Or maybe we have an opportunity here to think about what I'm going to say when I go into my listing presentation coming up here. Or maybe we roll up to the red light and we say, wow, you know, how awesome is it that I get to be in a country where I can own a car and be on this system of roads and lights that keeps us safe in the narrow slice of human history. How grateful am I that I get to be the person that gets to even see this red light? Or maybe we roll up to the red light and have a mystical response and say, oh, this is just an invention that exists in man's mind and doesn't really even exist in reality anyway. Now, friends, the thing that's in common between all of those scenarios is what? It's the red light. It's the only thing that's in common between all of those energetic reactions. So when we start talking about transforming a situation, we begin to notice the lens through which we're seeing the red lights of our life. We can go at the shallow level and say we're going to focus on what the problem is, and maybe even we're going to solve the problem. Or we're going to be able to go deeper with the experience and understand why we think it's a problem in the first place. All right, so it's important to understand this, because if we understand the mechanism within our own thinking, we can begin to unravel the things that keep us out of our truly powerful ways of being. What would it look like to love red lights? I know. Even if I put, as I was writing this flow for this group call, as I wrote that question, it put my thinking on its ear. Right? So when we start to ask these types of questions about what it is that we hate about lights, or what we hate about lead generation, or what we hate about lead follow-up, or what we hate about paperwork, if we were seeing it in a fundamentally different way, how could it create a different energetic reaction for us? So, Lena, I'm not sure if we have everybody on mute right now.
They are. Most of them.
If it's okay with you, I'd like to hear a couple of reactions to this idea that our reality and our experience with reality is created by the lens through which we're seeing it.
Sure, I can unmute them.
Yeah.
Okay. It looks like people have to unmute themselves. Amber, you're unmuted. Do you have a statement to that?
No, not right now. I want to listen to it. Um,
Okay, how about can we unmute everybody all at once, Lena, and maybe a couple of people can speak up?
I push unmute all, and it's their choice at this point. I think most of them muted themselves, so they.
Okay, so folks, let's have a couple people unmute yourself and let's get some participation going here, please.
Okay, this is Frank. Can I just repeat the question there, or no? I have something to say.
Okay, so yeah, as we're talking about this idea that your reality is created by the lenses through which you're seeing it, what's coming up for you, Frank?
That is a very true statement. I'm someone that has sees things, a little bit different based on my own personal, life growing up and everything. And I could just look at, whatever has happened that has made me, maybe stuck in one way or not, just kind of being scared of coming out of my own shell that has hurt my business. So looking at it from a different point of view, which I have more recently, it has allowed me to see those issues as many times even strengths that I have that have given me the opportunity to be able to even work better with people and understand people's needs and that kind of thing.
So Frank, what I heard you say then, tell me if I have this right, is that recently some issues have come up and you're choosing to see these issues as opportunities to grow your business.
Well, not recently. They've been up for many. I'm 33 now, so they've been up for many years, and just recently, the last 2 years, and more recently, the last year, is when I've been able to kind of change the focus into, why, and more of the, okay, this is my life now. Let's get a better ending.
Okay, so it sounds like you have become more empowered in the last
Correct.
2 years.
Yeah.
Okay, congratulations. Thanks for sharing, Frank.
Thank you.
Let's hear from somebody else. Same question. What's coming up for you as we consider this idea that your reality is created by the lenses through which you see it?
Okay, I will go.
Hey, who's this?
This is Janelle.
Hey, Janelle.
I look through two system lenses whenever I'm evaluating life. So I look at the lens from the left on reality, and then I look through the lens of gratitude. Because if I'm at the red light, the reality is if our red lights are going to exist. But out of the gratitude is, I know there's people my age who can't drive. There's people who don't have cars. There's people who are at bus stops and don't even think about having this problem. So it's a good problem to have, and I just have to deal with it with the reality and go forward.
That's a great example. So can I put you on the spot here for just a second, Janelle?
Sure.
Let's talk about something in your business. You're an agent, yes?
I'm a productivity coach.
Okay, you're a productivity coach. Excellent. So when you work with an agent that, let's say, they're not doing their prospecting.
Correct.
What's your usual initial reaction about that?
My initial reaction is to figure out what is their fear. Most people don't prospect because they have the fear of the unknown. So I try to figure out what hurdles do we need to cross in order to get you familiar and acceptable to the fact that this is going to build your business.
All right, so you're focusing on the plan, not the problem, right, is what I'm hearing you say.
Correct.
Okay, and then what is your, would you say that you are kind of in a get-it-done mode, an understanding mode, or how could we actually be grateful for the fact that we're working in overcoming a fear?
Because we have something to do. There's a lot of people who are not fit or don't even understand the gift it is to be able to be in this job. So if I can get you to understand that you're in a great place and you're doing a great thing, I'm helping you with that fear. I mean, there's a lot of people that can't do what you do, so that's how I help them. If I answer.
So what I'm hearing you say is that through gratitude, we can actually increase our power.
Correct.
That's great. Okay, thank you for that. Beautiful. Let's get one more person. Lenses and reality.
One more.
Folks, life is a participation sport, so even if you aren't sure what you're going to say, we want to hear you anyway. No. All right. We'll move on then for right now. There's going to be more opportunities to participate here in a few minutes. So I always like sharing examples of what we're talking about, right? Because a lot of times the examples speak to us individually. And one of the examples I heard about recently was there's an agent who was just deathly afraid, did not want to work with her past clients. And under the surface, she had a belief that was working that people don't want to hear from her or even be in a relationship with her, right? A long way back, she had an experience, a significant experience, where she created a belief or created a story in the moment that people didn't want to be in relationships with her. And as a result, she didn't develop her database. She didn't make calls to her sphere. She didn't make calls to to the people that actually had already worked with her, because she was afraid about being in relationships that she would get hurt again as she had before. Yet she wasn't even aware of that belief that was working below the surface. She just knew that she felt fear. So she got into some work, some transformational work here. She saw that the belief was working. She released the belief, took new actions, and did the same amount of business in Q1 and Q2 of 2016 as she did in all of 2015. And has also shifted her source of business to 60% past client, where it was 10%. She's hosting her first client appreciation event and is truly happy and energized by the relationship she's building. By the way, I had my individual call with her earlier today. You want to hear something crazy? Because she overcame this fear and hosted this event, she spent, I kid you not, these are actual numbers, she spent $560 on her client appreciation event and brought in $19,000 in GCI.
Wow.
Now, would you say that's a good return on investment?
Yes.
Yes.
It's an amazing return on investment. And yet the thing that we had to understand is that she had to get over her fear in order to be able to realize that kind of a gain. So when we hear about these fears that are working, what creates the fears is a little different for all of us. And it's a discovery process. And yet, I think we can all agree that when we get past the fear, as Janelle said so eloquently, we have a lot of reason to be grateful to be in this business. Here's another one. I love this one. This one's really, really good. And there was an agent who was working on a team. I don't know how many of you are working on teams right now. And yet we can all agree that in the most effective teams, whether it's Keller Williams or any business or any sport or anytime you work with other people, is that this agent was getting very, very angry with her rainmaker when the rainmaker would hold accountable to prospecting time and numbers, right? She would say, did you make your contacts? Did you follow your schedule, right? And this agent, who was talent, by the way, was getting very, very angry when the rainmaker would ask for, her update, her 411. And after digging into the beliefs, she found that she had formulated a fear a long time ago from school age that if she was called on by a person in a position of authority, that she had to defend herself. And as a result, or as an adult rather, when she was being asked to show her work, even when she had done her work, she had an unconscious level fear reaction which showed up as anger. By the way, it's an important thing for us to know is that typically when we see anger and sadness reactions, the underlying emotion is actually fear, right? When we see somebody that has an angry reaction to something, if you really dig deep, if you're honest with yourself, many times we find out that we actually fear something and anger is just the face of it and fear is really the root of it, which Lena already recognized. That's why she wanted to talk about fear on the call today.
Yes.
So when this agent became consciously aware that the belief and how it was impacting her, she expanded her options and she was able to choose a new way of dealing with the situation. Now she sees accountability conversations as a bragging opportunity to show her worth to the team. She was doing the work, she just didn't like the accountability. She got to the root of the fear, transformed it, and now sees accountability conversations as the ability to go in and brag to the rainmaker. I made my calls, I made my contacts. I'm getting 12-to-1 contact to appointment ratio. So we can see here, if we track down the root of the fear, how empowering it can actually be for us. So let me ask you what questions that you have right now, because after we go through this, we're actually going to go through a bit of a transformative exercise for everybody that's on the call. What questions, comments, ahas do you have right now at this point in the call?
I think my biggest aha was the fact that anger from past life, from even childhood, would be, or I mean, just any fear, it's mostly derived from things that you've been practicing so long and unknown.
Great point. You know that 97 to 99% of our thinking is unconscious. As much as 99% of our thinking, we don't even know is happening. So it's not until we go through the process of really bringing up our unconscious thinking that we can identify the source of those fears that you're talking about, that show anger, show sadness, nervousness, anxiety, stress.
John, I would like to share my aha.
Please.
You know, as a coach and also someone who's run a team or a couple teams and also been an agent accountable to myself, you know, it is typically when you show up and looking at the numbers and having those conversations, whether it's with your coach, your team lead, or even just yourself, looking at your goals and your actual reality, and how you can change the way you look at that and communicate that in your head and out loud, because you know, showing up and saying this is bragging rights is a very rare approach from what I found so far, versus this doesn't feel good. This is, why are you questioning me? I see that a lot more show up than how can this be bragging rights for me. So I love that.
Right. Well, I mean, all of you that are in the PC program as participants in the program, maybe we'll come back to this question here at the end of the call, and yet I'd like just for you to imagine what you would like to be able to say in those conversations, whether they're group conversations or one-on-one conversations. What would you like to be able to say to Lena or to anybody else on the teams? And just think about that as you begin to imagine being in that one-on-one coaching environment with your PC or whoever you're working with. Imagine the opportunity that that conversation provides to you. And maybe begin to notice a little difference in your energy as you're imagining it as an opportunity, maybe than the way that you've seen it up till now. I'm going to keep referencing Janelle here, what she said, because, guys, this is so important. How many people get to work in a job where you get to determine your own destiny?
Mm-hmm.
How many people have the kind of freedom and the kind of responsibility that goes with it. How many people get to work with a company where we have a PC program that can work to ensure your success as a new agent or as an emerging agent? What opportunities are in front of you right now that you have not capitalized on? Something to think about. Okay, I'd like for everybody to, let's make it a participation sport here for a few minutes, okay? And if you don't have, if you have a piece of paper and something to write with handy, that's great. If not, you can maybe put a note in your phone. Any way that you'd like to participate is fine, as long as you participate. And I'd like everybody just to think of a difficult situation that you're in right now. Maybe it's your lead gen. Maybe it's your lead follow-up. Maybe it's fear around appointments or listing presentations. It can be anything. Consider anything that is making you feel anger, sadness, or fear, or any other negative emotion. Your best example is probably the one that you're experiencing with another person in your life. Or it could be with your prospecting. Let's just take 1 minute here to write it down. Write as much as you can down about it. The situation that you're in your life or in your business. Go ahead and take a minute to do that now. Okay. Now, take another few seconds, 30 seconds here, to answer the following question. What am I making this situation mean about me? Or what is the attitude or belief that makes me feel the negative emotions? Again, so you have your difficult situation. You're going to answer one of two questions here. Number one, what am I making that situation mean about me? Or what is the attitude or belief that makes me feel the negative emotion? Go ahead and take 30 seconds or a minute to work through that. Okay, so I'd like to hear from 3 of you so far. We're going to coach through this in just a second. I'm going to give everybody a series of questions to answer, and we'll work through it individually. However, I'd like to hear from 3 people that would be willing to be coached in front of the group, because I think we can all agree that when we all when we share, we provide value to the other people in the group. So I have 3 volunteers, and just kind of tell me what you have so far. Please don't everybody unmute yourself at the same time.
This is Frank Ortiz. I'm willing to,
Okay, Frank, thank you.
coach you.
Beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Frank, what's the difficult situation that you're going through right now?
Setting time to dedicate to lead generation.
Okay, and what's difficult about it for you?
Too many distractions that lead me and pull me to different directions.
And what are you feeling as a result of being distracted, Frank?
I feel stressed. I feel, financially unstable. I feel unsuccessful.
Now, what is the attitude or belief that makes you feel the negative emotions?
Like what causes the negative emotion?
Yes.
Not being able to provide for my family.
Mm-hmm. So, Frank, I'm going to kind of put you on the spot here for just a second.
Go for it.
What attitude or belief would you show up in, or what attitude would you show up in order to be completely undistracted with your lead gen?
Can you, what attitude I would have to show up in? In a, not feeling in those ways, in a positive attitude?
Yeah, describe that positive attitude a little bit.
It will be, understanding that in order for those feelings to go away, I have to call people.
Okay, so I'm going to point out here that you notice that you just said you have to call people.
Correct.
Right? So if your attitude was fundamentally different, so what I'm hearing you say is that you feel like you're obligated to make calls.
Well, no, I mean, in order for those feelings, I need to call people in order for those feelings to go away. That's kind of what I mean. Not that I have to. I mean, I really enjoy calling people. It's just that sometimes there's just so much in the middle that kind of gear me away from that.
Okay, let's go to that then. What's the nature of the distraction? What do you feel about the distractions that are more powerful than your prospecting?
Well, my wife and I, we both work from home. She's not in real estate, but she also works from home. So at times I am distracted by that, or I'm distracted by having to take care of something in the house, or just daydreaming and not being frozen. That my word is always frozen. I feel frozen at times.
Right, so you're caught between a rock and a hard place. You know that prospecting is so important, and yet you also want to be there and be present with your wife in the house, right, when other things come up.
Correct.
Yeah, that's understandable, right? I don't think anybody on the call would disagree that can be a tough battle for us to fight. So the attitude then, what I'm hearing you say, tell me if this is right or wrong, the attitude is that the prospecting right now is less important than whatever's coming up around me.
That's what it seems to look like, yes. Even though I know deep down it's not. Yeah, those other things, the pleasure is in pleasure versus pain. Basically I may not want to be rejected, or I may not want to. Yeah, but yeah, essentially you are correct, yes.
So the attitude is whatever I'm typing this in is coming up is less or is more important than my lead gen.
Correct.
Okay, great. Thanks for playing, Frank. Great. We're going to come back to you in just a few moments, okay?
Okay.
Let's have somebody else. I'm going to ask Lena to call in. Okay, you said Jennifer?
Amber Masserana.
Amber. Hey, Amber. How are you?
I kind of, it's more of a personal and business as far as for real estate, but it's starting over from scratch. It's just having I used to be in the commercial and residential side of real estate, and when I got married 5 years ago and got out of the business, and events happened within the past 2 years and stuff. So I'm pretty much starting from scratch, and even though I have an idea of what needs to be done, I just putting it together. It's better to just sit here than to put it in action, just to deal with.
What are you feeling about this, Amber? What's your overall emotional about it?
Overwhelmed, frustrated, angry.
Yeah. Understandable, right? Especially when at one point in time you knew all the things to do, and you were, I would imagine you were probably pretty successful, and then you got out.
Yes.
All right. So I'm writing these notes in here. Overwhelmed, frustrated, angry. So then let's go to the follow-up question. What's the belief that's creating this overwhelm, this frustration, this anger?
It has to do with fear, because it's fear. It's fear.
That's what you're feeling. Let's go deeper than the feeling, though, right? So what do you believe? What do you believe about yourself that is different than what it actually is?
Maybe I'm not good enough for it. Maybe I'm not as good as I used to be. Things have changed, so just grasping it. And I deep down feel like I have what it takes, but I'm not sure why I'm not putting it into action.
All right. Well, can we all agree that fear can paralyze us sometimes?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Amber, my dear, if you're thinking, I'm not as good as I used to be, isn't it understandable why you would feel overwhelmed, frustrated, and angry?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, good. So hang on to that. Keep that written down. All right,
Okay.
That's an excellent example. Thank you for that, Amber. All right, and I think it's something probably that all of us can relate to in some way, shape, or form. All right. Okay, let's get one more example. This is a great one. Lena, you have some good coaching clients in your program.
Thank you.
Let's go for one more.
Willing to be coached by you, John.
Okay. All right. Well, then what you got, Lena?
I'm going to go with my fear of growth.
Okay. So, what is the fear of specifically?
So for me, is it the right time? Is my team really on board with it? Can I afford to do it? How will everyone around me react? Am I good enough for it? All of those things surface when I talk about growth and expansion and opportunity.
Okay, so the things that I got from you on that, Lena, were it's not the right time, right? I'm writing these down. That it's the belief here that it's not the right time, that you can't afford it, that you don't have the team in place, and that you're not good enough.
Yeah, I'm asking myself all those questions.
Yeah, well, you're as a coach, as a great coach, you're phrasing them as questions, right? And yet the question comes out as a response to something that's in your unconscious thinking. Would you agree with that?
Yes, I would.
All right.
So really, I don't want to set. When I was a single agent, it was easy for me to be 100% okay with failure because I knew it only affected me. And now running a team, having a team, and then all of my coaching clients along with it, I know that my failure shows up in a much bigger way for people.
Okay, so my failures affect everybody.
Yes, that's how I feel.
Or my failures are
Bigger than what they used to be.
Wow. Hold on a second. That's really good. Just think about the statement that you just said. My failures are bigger than they used to be. Okay, so Lena, my dear, how are you looking at that red light right now? Right? Notice that lens. We'll come back to it, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So the fear that you're feeling is based on you kind of have like a 5 distinct beliefs here that are all feeding the fear monster.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, so thank you guys, all three of you. That's great examples. Now I'm going to put everybody through a set of questions here that I'm going to invite you to answer these questions. Take a few seconds. I'll give you some time between each question, and then we're going to circle back to Frank, Amber, and Lena here. And if you guys choose to participate, I'd love to hear from what you have to say after we go through the questions. Okay. All right. So the first question here for everybody is, how true is that belief, or how true are those beliefs? Go ahead and take a second. How true is that belief? Okay, second question. What would happen if the opposite were true? What would happen if the opposite were true? Next question. How is this belief benefiting you? Or how is that attitude benefiting you? If it wasn't benefiting you, you wouldn't be doing it. Next question. What is that belief costing you? What is that belief costing you? And then the last question. If you chose to, what would it take to transform the situation? If you chose to, what would it take to transform the situation?
I'm excited to hear your answer, Frank.
How do you know it's me?
I can hear you laughing.
Okay, so do we want to go through the questions one more time, or are we ready to go to Frank? We'll go through the questions with Frank. So Frank, your belief here was that whatever is coming up is more important than your lead gen, which is leading you to feel stressed, stressed and unstable.
Correct.
So how true is that belief?
It's not a true belief at all.
Mm-hmm. So Frank, what would happen if the opposite were true?
I would be as successful as I know I can be, and as my coach knows I can be too, and keeps reminding me.
So how is hanging on to that belief benefiting you then?
It's not. It's something that I choose to do because, you know, my wife doesn't make me do those things, or when I can't, she's not upset about it because she's working at 100 miles an hour herself. So.
Okay, yet you're doing those things for your wife to benefit her, is that right?
Yeah, correct, yeah, but it's not.
So that's a benefit.
It's not an expectation, right? Huh?
That's a benefit to you, though. You get to make your wife happy in that moment.
Yes.
Okay. So there's no right or wrong answer here.
Mm-hmm.
It's just beginning to notice what you're getting out of being distracted.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What is that belief costing you?
Right now, at least $150,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, today. Next year will be $250,000, and so on and so forth.
Hey, Frank,
right
we agree that's a costly belief?
Yes. At least $150,000.
Okay. So, Frank, if you chose to, what would it take to transform the situation?
get an office at the office.
And so you want to set up an environmental, a change in your environment.
Yes.
Okay, well, what's to keep you from staying at home, even when you have an office at the office?
I think knowing how much more successful I can be, at the office will help, because those feelings that I get of stress and et cetera, are taking a toll on me, little by little, and I wanted to stop.
Okay, well, it sounds to me like you're seeing the office as an opportunity to make that $150,000 or $250,000.
Correct, especially when one is available at no cost right now for a few weeks or months.
Yep. Okay, great. So how's your energy? Just a follow-up question. How do you feel about that? What do you feel about that as you say this out loud?
I don't think I ever said it with so much. I think I've said it before, but I never truly believed it. I believe it now, because I never put a dollar value to it.
Awesome job, Frank.
Thank you.
Great job.
Miss Amber,
Yes, sir.
who's starting over from scratch. I'm not as good as I used to be. Feeling overwhelmed, frustrated, and angry. I'm not as good as I used to be. How true is that belief?
It's not true. It's not true.
What would happen if the opposite were true, Amber?
I wouldn't feel frustrated. I wouldn't feel overwhelmed. I wouldn't feel stressed. I'd feel more confident, more empowering, that I've actually been able to start over. Even if I had to start at the bottom, I still started over and I made it through it. I feel really good about that.
Can everybody hear the energy shift in her voice from where she was before?
Yes.
Do you just notice the difference? I mean, she said, Amber, you sounded like you just got tight-lipped on us, which is that kind of like steely determination, right? It's Texas style.
Yep.
Yes.
So how is this belief that you're not as good as you used to be, how's that belief benefiting you?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
This belief that I'm not as good as I used to be. How has that belief been benefiting you?
It hasn't been benefiting me. It's been holding me back to actually
Hold
make
on
it
a
move.
second. You get something for having it, or you wouldn't be doing it. What have you been getting out of that belief?
Pity party.
Mm-hmm.
Comfortable. It's like I said, it was easier just to stay in one place than to move.
Yeah. So you get to feel sorry for yourself, right? Isn't that fun sometimes for all of us?
No, not really. When you sit in it, when you're having a pity party for seems like a while. No.
Yeah. So what's that belief been costing you?
It's actually, as far as dollar amount, I don't have a dollar amount, but it's my livelihood.
Mm-hmm.
My livelihood.
How far have you actually been off of where you used to be in terms of who you're being?
Far off. Far off.
So if you chose to, Amber, what would it take to transform the situation?
Get going. Do what I need to do with no excuses and just do it.
Tie-down question for you.
Okay.
What's an affirmation that you might use to reinforce the belief that will benefit you?
I have what it takes. I have what it takes.
Amber, are you smarter than you were 5 years ago?
I've gained a lot of wisdom. Yeah, I feel, yes. A lot of life lessons, a lot of things, yes.
Because I have a hard time believing that you're not better than you were 5 years ago.
I think I'm in a, career-wise, I'm not, because I don't have a career right now. Yes, when you put it like that, I have a lot more responsibilities than I had compared to 5 years ago. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Financial responsibilities. I have a house. I have everything, I have everything that I've set out that I ever said that I wanted, but my career wise.
Okay, so we know that success is simple, not easy, right?
Right,
So you haven't done some activities.
right,
You haven't necessarily prospected or lead followed up or built a database or any of those things that, Lena and the group knows about your business.
right.
How have you made that mean that that's you that's not better?
I don't know.
You see what I'm saying?
Right, right. I do. I do.
You understand the business. You're smarter than you were. You're wiser than you were, to use your words.
Yes. Yes.
So go back to this. Circle back to it one more time. What's an
Okay.
affirmation that you might use to reinforce a belief that will actually benefit you?
I have what it takes.
You have what it takes and then some, sister.
Yeah.
Okay, what's your energy feel like right now as you why don't you say that again to the whole group, okay? I have what it takes and then some.
I have what it takes and then some.
Okay, I'd like for you to move it from your head down to your heart. Say it again.
I have what it takes and then some.
How connected right now are you to the person that you want to be?
Very.
That's what's up.
I appreciate that. That's good stuff. You even have me crying over here.
Well, you know what crying means. It means that we're getting close to something that's true for you.
I feel a breakthrough. I feel a bit relieved.
Great. Awesome.
And not talking about it and stuff. I don't talk about this kind of stuff with people, and so being able to be vulnerable right now and talk about it feels good.
I think everybody on this call can agree that we're getting tremendous value from you right now. So thank you for that.
Absolutely.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Thank Lena. She set it up. Okay. Nice segue. Lena.
Well, I'm emotional because I know how empowering these two people are. So it's amazing to hear the energy shift.
Good. Well, so Lena, it's not the right time. I can't afford it. I don't have the team in place. I'm not good enough. My failures are bigger than they used to be. Which one of those seems like the root belief?
I would say the last one.
My failures are bigger than they used to be.
Uh-huh.
How true is that belief?
I wrote that it's easy to believe in my mind, yet I know it's not the truth.
I mean, everybody on this call may or may not realize that you've created the first successful expansion PC program in Keller Williams.
Yeah, most of them may not know that.
Woohoo! Okay. So, Lena, what would happen if the opposite were true?
Well, I think of the agents first. I mean, the more expansions we have, the more agents that we get to touch and help have breakthroughs and earn more income for them and their families and hit goals. And for me, it's about being able to allow them to grow into leadership. And we all start at zero, so it's showing those opportunities that can happen. And so the more expansions and more coaches such as Janelle that's on this call, and that's powerful.
So how is hanging on to this belief benefiting you?
Just like Amber said, it's comfortable. I wrote that I know I track my numbers so I know exactly what the return and the expenses and income is going to be from here, and expansion is new territory. And yes, I am the first to do it. So it's benefiting me because it's what I know.
And what's it costing you?
Well, I mean, income wise is the potential opportunity there is massive. So that can be uh, millions, honestly, with the vision I have. Um, Yet, honestly, going back to agents, you know this about me, John, and most people don't, is that productivity coaching hasn't been around a lot for long. And it's getting set up to where a lot of coaches don't actually show up for the agents like maybe a model I have would. So I want to make sure that it's in the best benefit to the agents who are in the programs. And so,
Lena, if you chose to, what would it take to transform the situation?
you said this at dinner to me the other night at Mega Camp, is, believing in myself.
Believing in what specifically?
Believing that I've put in the energy and the time and the commitment, and that I'm always going into it with the most passion and dedication I have. And for me, it's all about always growing myself and my team and the agents. So just believing that that's who I am. Because I always question that I should be better. I should be doing something differently.
Mm-hmm. Consider that questioning how to do things better is different than questioning how you need to be better. I'll say that again. Consider that questioning how to do things better is different than questioning how you need to be better.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Thanks for sharing that with all of us and helping all the people here on the call recognize that for a lot of people, you're their coach and you're still on your own growth path.
Absolutely. That's the great thing about Keller Williams, right, John?
Yes, ma'am.
Endless opportunities.
Yep. And it works both ways, too. I learned as much from you and Frank and Amber on this call, and Janelle for that matter. I learned as much. I always walk away with so much wisdom from you guys because we all learn from each other and grow. So let's take a few minutes here. Let's do ahas, a couple of questions, any comments that anybody might have. Maybe somebody that hasn't spoken yet would be cool. I'd really like to hear a few minutes of wrap up as we finish up our call here.
Some people are messaging through chat because they don't have a microphone. So if you'd like to place your ahas, I'm happy to read them out loud.
Certainly. Great idea.
For me, while people, text there for Lena, it was just putting things into words and saying them out loud. I think especially the what I'm losing part, and then saying it and seeing how that would change, our life for the better, and even possibly my wife not having to work. Be able to. She's pregnant now. She's due in February with twins, so that's our first. So, making that kind of money will definitely allow her to stay home, with the babies, versus having to get like a babysitter or something.
And by the way, Frank, when those kids grow up and they see their dad going to the office and being disciplined and prospecting and doing the things that a great salesperson does, great real estate agent does, I'm just kind of curious, what message does that send to your kids?
A very positive one. You're right. Very positive one.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. Who else?
I'm with Frank on that as far as speaking it and actually not only with the questions but coming back and repeating them and stuff. It helps. It puts it more into perspective. Just saying, believing I have what it takes and more. I really feel that at my core. I think that what I didn't say is in 2 years my life has changed. My husband passed away, and so he was the provider. So with that, just taking all that in, that's why I feel frustrated, overwhelmed.
Yeah, well, Amber, that's totally understandable.
So
And yet here we get to see, your kids get to see, everybody around you gets to see you stepping up and taking the responsibility for creating the life that you want in the absence of your husband.
yes, and that's what makes me saying that and hearing that right now. It just makes me feel much better because that's why I was feeling frustrated. That's why I feel overwhelmed. That's why I was feeling stressed. I was feeling all these emotions because this person that I was married to passed away, and he was the provider. He was the one. I pretty much put everything into him and the company that he was growing and stuff, and I kind of forgot about myself and my needs and my wants and what makes me live my life because of just giving everything to my husband. And now that he's not here, you take that part of the equation. That's why I feel the way I feel.
Well, you sound like you're becoming pretty empowered as we speak.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Talking about it and stuff does help relieve and takes the weight off. Especially when you acknowledge it and it comes from your mouth and you actually believe it as you're saying. Yes, it does. It feels good.
Thanks again for that. Thanks again for all the value.
We have one more aha typed from Delia. She said, "We are the ones who create our reality. We have the power to change it by digging in deeper on why we feel the way we do."
Great. Well said. Should be a coach.
She's a dancer.
Right. Well, anybody that's performed in front of other people knows exactly that you really have to dig into some of those things in order to be able to get up in front of another person and do something, to stick your neck out, to be vulnerable, as Amber said before.
Mm-hmm.
Right? In order to do that, and that also includes making great lead gen calls. Guys, in order for you to make a great lead generation call, do we have to be vulnerable? Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
In order for us to listen to a client that's complaining at us about an inspection report, do we have to be vulnerable? Yes.
Yes.
And yet, what I hope all of you would begin to understand, and that's a wonderful comment, is that in that vulnerability there's immense power. So when we truly open ourselves up to hearing the good, the bad, the ugly, every piece of it, that we actually get the most power to do something about a situation. So consider that as our next call. Okay. All right. Well, folks, I so appreciate taking time out of your busy schedules, and so appreciate the invite from Lena to come talk with you and work with you and have you do some work with yourselves, and anything that we can do for you in any way, shape, or form, please don't hesitate to reach out.
Well, we thank you, John, for being on this call and empowering all of us who showed up on it.
Yes, John.
Yes, John,
Thank you very
so
much. Appreciate it.
You guys rock, and make sure you're watching your shift numbers, okay, for your market in the Woodlands.
Thanks, John. Thank you, everyone, for attending.
Thank you, Lana.
Bye.
Bye.